Hey, hello guys, how are you all? Let me talk about a very interesting topic and regularly raised question and the much important area in the preparation of anthropology and of course the the cutting edge reality that is very important for the selection of the candidates and for students who choose anthropology as optional, scoring heavily in the optional does matter. It decides the candidate's future. We all know about that, right? And also it decides the key ideas called the cadre as well as the service. And not only that, it of course simply puts, it makes or breaks the chances of the candidates because many students have observed hundreds of students marks, and many of them have they have the scores which are closer to each other in the general studies, but when it comes to optional, right, and it is the decider, and many students fall in that bracket of around 200 or less than 200, and about their number is roughly about 50% or so, and about 20-30% people end up scoring more than 200, and about only about 10 to 15% people score near about the 300 mark, and very few people, again about 10 to 5 to 10%, end up being crossing the 300 marks, and the top 2 to 3% end up with 350 plus marks. You know how that the evaluation of the candidates happen here, the kind of comparison within the peer groups. So how to score 300 plus marks in anthropology optional again is boils down to us, for the right, the reality check here. So what exactly we have got in store? I have got some clear ideas about this, and what exactly are these ideas? Let us have a look at now. Going further, now I consider this as a 300 plus marks is not easy, and it is easier said than done. We all know that, and it has to pass through three levels. We all know that the matter becomes very important when the base is very strong. That means these three levels start with the level one. That is level one, which comes something happens, which where it happens before the exam, or how should I say, while you are preparing, while the candidate is preparing for the exam, in the sense, for first of all understanding the subjects, listening to the classes, taking coaching or not taking coaching, or on he or she is on her own. So while preparing, I tell you guys that it is number one decider, acts as a base, and also the number one where the number of ideas we are going to discuss is also more. That means everything that has to, that is prepared, goes into this level. The maximum preparation happens in this level. The second level that I presume is um, applicable when you prepare, the take tests. When you take tests or test series, whether you write the test as part of your optional preparation while going for coaching, right? Sometimes some teachers tend to give the questions and ask you to write, and maybe weekly test once in a week, or randomly they give a question and ask you to write the answers. And I see, even I have done that several cases, and on an average roughly more, not more than 5 to 10% turnover. Only 5 to 10% of the students give the answers. Within that 5 to 10% of the students, only about the half of the students, roughly half of the students, write regularly. The early starters are the ones, these people are the ones. And the second category people, as I've just mentioned to you, they just write the tests, but only one or two tests, and they give up. So this happens exactly at the level of their taking tests. And taking tests, as I told you, can happen not only while you're taking coaching, but also while you're actually writing test series during the coaching itself. Okay, and while you also write the test series after you take the coaching. So when you attempt test series outside your coaching center, or even when you have prepared on your own, when you choose the test series on your own or by going by the reviews, etc., then that is also a part of this level 2. And I'm going to go threadbare in these all the three levels. And the third level, of course, is your final deciding the game. That is the examination. Actually, what happens in the examination time and during the exam in the exam hall. What exactly do in the exam hall? So I always have this habit of going end to end, not just give you general suggestions. I have I know people have the idea, right? Many people give these ideas, but I want you to go back and map the entire thing from end to end. That is our scheme of things. In our scheme of things, not only in classes but also in test series, I have developed a tendency to go from end to end. So, what exactly is needed at the exam angle, right, in the exam hall, has to start from level 1 itself. So, before going to the exam, you have to undergo certain tests also. So, these are the three levels which I am talking about. Now let us go to the test, level 1 here. In level 1, I ask my students to do these five things. Okay, so first complete the syllabus. In the sense you have to know the key words or the parts of the syllabus that are mentioned very clearly in the syllabus paper 1 and paper 2. Sometimes some topics are not mentioned in the syllabus, but they do come in the exam, right? For example, there is a topic called universalization and parallelization that is not mentioned in the syllabus, but it is part of the other topic called little traditions and great traditions. So tomorrow, if the examiners ask about universalization and parallelization, don't get scared. So that is how you need to know the syllabus, complete the syllabus, and know the syllabus by heart. If you want, you can do this also, but not necessarily if you are thorough with the syllabus. Regularly, preparing in the sense listening to the classes and listening to your lecturers. You can do that, right? Complete the syllabus, and you should know what is there in 5.3 in paper 2 and 5.1 in paper 2 again, and what exactly is there in 2.2 in paper 1, like that. Better be well versed with the syllabus. So the components of the syllabus are very very important. So first you need to cover the syllabus in and out. And there are three levels of reading. Again, in this, there are several levels. I'll come to that when we go into each and every aspect of that. Now, coming to the other important criteria here, that is criterion rather. Observe and imbibe the trends that are getting added every year on the kind of trends that are happening as far as the question paper is concerned. When you see the question papers of the previous years, last 3 4 years, 5 6 years, even up to 10 years, you can go up very very diligently, right? You observe certain trends that the examiner is actually setting, and and of course the anthropology is mostly such a kind of optional where the questions are repeated, no doubt about it. The kind of safe guarantee kind of a base marks of more than 250 marks can be easily gotten when you're strong in this repeated after repeated or regularly repeated questions. But the next level to increase the marks from 250 to 300 will take a very big efforts, right? That takes a quantum leap and jump from your side. That quantum leap and jump involves understanding these kinds of trends. So how the questions are going for a sea change, how the kind of cryptic questions are getting added to the exam papers every year. And for example, if you see these years, last 2 3 years, they're asking questions, especially in short notes. For example, I'm giving some idea here. Short notes may, for example, they have given something like Victor Turner and liminality. Victor Turner and liminality, both are highly related, but you should establish this relation while talking about Victor Turner. Everybody knows that he belongs to symbolic anthropology. It is clearly mentioned in the syllabus. Even if you listen to the lectures, also you may write something. But the beautiful thing here that you can do is bring out what exactly is liminality as propounded by another scholar. You should know the thing beyond this kind of four walls of the syllabus. Of course, we do have a concept called the writes the passage that comes as a part of chapter 5. So Victor Turner comes in chapter 6. You should be very clear on this. Okay, when you know the syllabus, I said in and out, you know that Victor Turner belongs to chapter 6, whereas the concept of writes the passage, just now I mentioned, which see this idea called liminality. This writes the passage comes in chapter 5. So there is a connection between chapter 5 and chapter 6. So you should establish this connection. And once you know that the examiner is asking these kinds of questions, you should be preparing very thoroughly in this. So you should be knowing the interlinkages of the syllabus, number one. And sometimes you have to go the extra mile to collect certain information. Many books may not be having that kind of information. You should take the help of your seniors or my classes or my notes. Of course, मेरा भी role आएगा in future. Definitely, I'll be also sharing a lot with you guys. Provided there are of course certain platforms available through my classes and notes, you can do that. And coming to coaching, it is up to you whether you take coaching or not. It's up to you, or you go for self study. But all that happens in the background, as I told you in level 1 itself. Take coaching is highly recommended because many students to come they come to me for आंसर राइटिंग ठीक है सो टेस्ट सीरीज लेने के लिए आते हैं एंड फॉर देम there are again two types of people: the people who are well versed in the subjects, people who have already taken coaching, or who have not taken coaching. Some students are better off in some topics, especially their writings are their syntax, sentence construction is good, their brevity is good, but they lack the concepts. The conceptual depth is absent. Depth is absent. The conceptual clarity is missing. Only when you listen to the classes, then you can add these two things. Okay? So even though you can write better answers, you can write the sentences perfectly. You may read some books in the market and some materials in available, and you get to know some introductions. You get to know some case studies, examples. Wonderful, but how to when it comes to presentation, some students lack this depth and clarity, so there they will end up scoring less than 50% marks. So only there are several levels of awarding marks according to me. If the student just writes some basics and just something he or she writes there, that will not fetch more than 40% marks. If there is some substance in the sentence, if that means that the candidate is making the point clearly in the very beginning, and very few examples he has written, he or she has not completed the entire paper. Sometimes, for once for 150 words answer, that is short notes, 10 marker, people will not even utilize the two papers. They just write on the one side, and next paper half only they will write. They will not conclude. ऐसे marks में आपको 50% से ज़्यादा नहीं मिलेंगे. Like that, I'll be giving so many ideas when you enter into the test series, okay, and classes. And coaching always helps immensely. I can use this word without any doubt. It can add kind of change which is absolutely like you can't even imagine without coaching. You may be like getting the pulse of the exam, wonderful, no problem, but coaching helps immensely. It will shorten the time duration for you. It will lessen the number of attempts you are going to make, and you may end up getting into a better service with each attempt, right? That is how I see this. And at level 1 in the background, we have this kind of gathering content of nothing but collecting your notes. You're making your standard books or the materials जो भी है आप देखते हैं, right? And you convert that into your own notes. That means what I'm trying to suggest here is gathering the content means making your own notes. When you make your own notes in your own words, that will act as an extraordinary kind of source of the content that you're going to generate in the exam. And I use this word regularly in the while I counsel my students, something called as resourcefulness. आपको इतना resourceful होना है कि on the spot, even if there are tricky questions, surprises, you can write something out of nothing. You can create at least 50% of the answer and get away with 40% to 50% marks, provided you have this kind of making your own notes habits. It should become a habit forever, not only for this one optional, but also it will help you in the general studies. And coming to reading standard sources, I have the tendency of recommending the standard sources. I definitely recommend you guys to uh, go for my notes, right? Follow my notes. मेरा notes काफी है, लेकिन if you want to go beyond 350, 360 and 300K plus बाहर जाना है, you have to go and read the standard reference books. For example, Ember and Ember becomes a base book for entire anthropological preparation. Without Ember and Ember, if somebody is saying I have prepared for civil service exam, it may be like it is a luck itself. I mean, there is the substance will not be very strong in your answers. And paper one may at least 20, 30 to 40% of the questions you can directly get from Ember and Ember. That is without any doubt I can say. Okay, so the standard sources will establish the mode that is generated in the class. Why I recommend the standard sources or the reference books? I repeat, because there is a tendency for the lecturers or the teachers, faculty members, to create the introduction and the story or the mode for the setting for the facts to come, right? And no lecturer will just reel out facts. Usually, the best lecturers or the best faculty will not be only reeling out facts. Otherwise, I mean, here in this kind of level of examination, that will not work. They generate the kind of introductions and body and connections, the kind of interlinkages that again cannot be established by the same class, right? If there are offline classes, it is very difficult to get into the mode of the class again. Now, what will recreate the mode when you go back home? Are you getting this? Because we all, as faculty, prepare from these standard sources, research articles, there's the extraordinary textbooks. Some we may not recommend to you, but we go through. But some, whatever that are recommended to you, please must go through them so that you always end up adding that edge in your answers. You should have that edge with others. So this is the part of the kind of level one I'm talking about. Completing the syllabus. When you should complete the syllabus is up to always 6 months before the prelims. This is the best way I should say. 6 months before the prelims you should complete the syllabus, and after the prelims you should start writing the test series. That is the general thing when you are sure to actually hit the mains list. But even before that, some people can start writing before the even thinking about क्या बोलते हैं ना, the going before the prelims itself. You can start writing the test series. So test series can be had in that kind of linked here. Coming to this observe and imbibe the trends, I've already explained a great deal. So what exactly are the trends? The trends that are usual these days is the questions are becoming at least about 10 to 15% of the questions. 10 to 15% of the questions are becoming tricky. In the sense, I call them as क्या बोलते हैं ना, not just tricky but quirky questions. There is another word for that. Tricky questions, and they are not straight jacket questions. They demand the originality of the candidate. They're always बोलते हैं ना, they demand this kind of innovation from the candidate, observation and interpretation of the concepts, going to the I mean different parts of the syllabus and linking. So this is happening these days very often. So that is regularly happening. And I told you another one, that is not only these tricky questions but also some kind of surprises that are coming up. For example, some kind of a question that was total institutions, a kind of a question that has come in 2019 called total institutions. What are these total institutions or total social institutions? Total social institutions करके एक क्वेश्चन आया था. So that was nowhere in the syllabus, but it was slightly as an extended idea of the topic called society and culture in paper one. So we should know what exactly are these total social institutions. Something like a surprise. Earlier they've asked about liminality, but liminality was there in the syllabus, but very less discussed and less published in the questions. There was a question of about क्या बोलते हैं ना phenomenology earlier. These kinds of words, the moment you start focusing on them, you lose your balance. So better when you see the trend itself, when you understand the trend that you're and that you're definitely sure that these kinds of questions are coming, then don't be surprised or don't get into shock. Okay, you'll be surprised naturally, but never allow your surprise to become shock, such that you end up in a big trouble, right? So these kinds of topics are less discussed in the books, and I'm taking every effort to include these kinds of topics in my classes and my notes and also in my test series and the book I'm going to publish very soon. So ये सब आने वाला है. So phenomenology, these kinds of questions, if they come, they should only surprise you but not shock you. That is what I actually I'm looking at. Next, take coaching. Already I've told you it is up to you. It is based on your personal time as well as money, how much time you can spend, and how much time you can, how much money you can spend. And if you have time, definitely go for it. And I strongly recommend people who already have taken test series on self preparation. I recommend them to take coaching and see the difference. I've got several students who have done that, and they have done excellently well. They are very very thankful for me. Sir, आप recommend किए, बाद में मैंने महसूस किया that with coaching that doesn't make much difference to us. In fact, it will open up the vistas for you. So that is how I recommend students. So gather content, my dear friends, on a regular basis. This gathering content may happen from your standard sources and materials, right? And the notes we dictate. Standard sources means this reference books. The reference books will only add that kind of mode to the mode of the class, and the value addition, some kind of materials available in the market, and also current affairs. How should current affairs be added to the this thing? Many students ask me. I tell them current affairs, you should not bother much about current affairs because they should be added at like sone pe suhag, icing on the cake. Current affairs cannot become the mainstream question. The examiner may frame the question from current affairs very very rarely, but that again goes back and hits at the core of the subject. You got it. For example, if they ask about what we call, अगर ये पूछे तो tribal पंचशील, you have to give the example of that recent thing. Recent means even 3 4 years hence also is a recent thing. The Andaman Nicobar में एक one foreigner person was killed. An American, John Chow, was killed. So by the Sentinelese people, that also comes as current affairs. You should know in which area it should go and fit. So tribal Panchashil is a background. If the examiner is giving tribal Panchashil, you should know which current affairs part to be written. So we can't write an entire episode of the John Chow killing or by the Sentinelese. It has to not more than occupy only one sentence or at the most small paragraph. So current affairs definitely comes into the picture, provided you've already made your notes. I know पहले देखा है ना, base notes बना लो. बाद में you add all these kinds of small notes so that they all end up being getting added in the value. So reading standard sources already have covered. So I have this habit of actually explaining the things in advance, again going further and further, again going deeper. So level 2, when it comes to level 2, again see there are 3 points in this. In level 1, we had got 5 areas. In level 2, we got 3 areas. Now when we go to level 3, they'll go further down. It's like inverse of the pyramid. We reverse the pyramid. How it happens, I'll just tell you. Take the test. I highly recommend. I tell you very, very clearly that without taking tests, if you are aiming for 300 plus marks, it's shooting in the dark. As simple as that. Taking the tests at regular intervals, again at regular intervals, in the sense not only while you are taking the coaching. Sometimes your teacher may give the questions for writing, sometimes he or she may not give, but you should start writing some old question papers and show it to the teachers or your seniors. ऐसा भी हो सकता है. And at regular intervals, as I said, from the coaching itself, or you can go for write the test series conducted by us. I am conducting the test series which has got very good response from the student community, and we have done excellently well in understanding the nature of the exam, the level of the questions, the kind of tricky and क्या बोलते हैं ना, quirky questions, the kind of questions which are also becoming the regular habit of the examiner, about 10 to 15% count. Even that also will be actually tackled in this. So once you get into this level 2, while you take tests, you understand the demand of the questions, right? So what exactly is the demand of the questions, or how you are actually interpreting the questions. That means the questions which may be straight also sometimes may trick you. For example, if the examiner is asking about um, the social organization of the tribes, many students did not write exactly what exactly is the tribe social organization of the tribes. They've ended up writing something else. When we have asked about something, we have something in mind, they end up something else, writing something else. When we asked unilineal descent groups, people wrote unilineal descents. You got it? Please be very clear what exactly the question is demanding. When we ask unilineal descent groups, you have to write only unilineal descent groups and not unilineal descent. At the most, you can write one line on unilineal descent. Unilineal descent को introduction में लिखो. Then you write this is expressed or exhibited by the following groups. What exactly A, B, C, D? I cannot reveal all that right now. It will become a class actually. Okay, so the interpretation of the question is absolutely required here. Very, very clear. You should do that. For that, you should have clarity, and clarity I'll explain when it comes. And adding value to the answers at level 2 itself will take you there. It will make that kind of a regular habit for you. You start adding value to your answers even in your exam hall. Adding value to the answers in the preparation stage itself, that is taking tests or the text series itself by different क्या बोलते हैं ना, inputs. What are these inputs? Most important ones is your own diagrams. Sometimes those diagrams are regular diagrams. For example, you should be able to write clearly differentiate between the skull of a chimpanzee and the skull of a human being. The skull of a chimpanzee is like this, right? It will have a very big jaw, like this. But the human skull, see how easily I've drawn within a second. And if you want to draw the skull of a human being, you should draw like this. You should know the kind of cranial vaults, the human skull. This is how a human skull goes, something like this, very nearly. So there is a very clear difference in the skulls itself. And there are other diagrams. These are the actual diagrams, right? These skulls are actual diagrams. Or other diagrams में क्या आता है? There are something called as illustrative diagrams. These are actual diagrams. One is actual diagrams. The other ones are illustrative diagrams. What are illustrative diagrams? For example, if you are writing about the various language groups in India, language families in India, we should know there are four types of language groups: the Austro-Asiatic group, then the Dravidian group, the what we call the Aryan group, and also the Nishada group, or the Tibeto-Mongoloid group. That kind of, they should be very, very clearly separating them. And how do you open your answer, or in the middle or body of the answer, you should be clearly writing this illustration. See, these are language groups and or language families, and all these language families like are divided like this: one, two, three, four. So these are called illustrative diagrams. And there are some more diagrams like for example, if you see, these diagrams are your क्या बोलते हैं इसको, these diagrams are your mind maps or flow charts. You know what exactly are mind maps, I need not explain. Mind maps and flowcharts go a long way in establishing the interconnections and the interlinkages within the answer. Mind maps or flowcharts, and or both. Certain questions demand this kinds of flowcharts. If you're talking about, if you're trying to explain the connection between, take for example anthropological theories. If you're talking about cultural materialism, there are three levels where Marin Harris talks about, right? The infrastructure, the structure, and the superstructure. You should know how to establish the connection between infrastructure, structure, and superstructure. Similarly, Julian Stewart. In paper 2, Tribal India, you should know how to link all the tribal problems. Then that kind of and again in several areas we have got this diagrams. We can teach you how best you can draw them. And sometimes to tell you what, some students have got such beautiful innovative abilities. They draw new kinds of diagrams. Sometimes we draw these illustrated diagrams, innovative diagrams, and mind maps. But students also sometimes come up with their original ideas. Here, originality is most important, and it is valued also. The examiner appreciates the value of your originality, innovation, and improvisation of the answer, adding value to the answer that will elevate your answers from 50% to 60% and beyond. That is how you make your marks, right? So taking the test is more important here. So as we have noted in the level 1, level 2, etc., we have got all the ideas very clearly. Okay, adding value to the answers, then understanding the demand of the questions, taking the tests, all have been explained very clearly. Now coming to the last stage, that is at level 3, managing the time well in the exam hall and being ready for the surprises. And here I'm going to explain it in a detail here. What exactly you do mean by managing time well? Everybody knows this mathematics and science of it. People know that very well that I have to write 19 marks. I have to answer 19 questions. Right? There are 10 markers, there are 15 marker questions and 20 marker questions. And for 10 marks, I cannot spend more than 7 minutes. Okay? And for uh, for 15 markers, roughly maybe 14 to 15, about 10 minutes at the most, because 10 minutes is ज़्यादा, you can't actually spend not more than 10 minutes. So ten minutes is more than enough. So 10 minutes for your 15 markers and 14 to 15 minutes for your 20 markers. Everybody knows this, but how do you manage it? People say practice. प्रैक्टिस में क्या है, ठीक है, लिखते जाना है क्या, what do you want to write actually, what do you want to write, how you want to write. Some scholars say how you write is more important than what you write, and I have seen the students getting selected and they're getting interview calls, getting into services by writing very less but meaningfully. They have written very clearly, maintaining the distance between the sentences, drawing the diagrams very clearly, and even though they have not added much value, still they have made it. You got it? They have ended up getting around 300 marks. अभी 300 के बाहर जाना है आपको. So you add all this, you note all these points. First of all, you have to know what to write very clearly, how to write very well, and within the time. And in these three areas, for all these three basic points, you have something at the background. Acha, tell me very clearly, how can you write in time? How? Because this is very crucial, no? We all say it is easier said than done. How can you write within the time? How can you write within the time? That's actually simple. You have to write very concisely. How can you write within the time? That is a more question. Or within the time limits. That is a moot question. So for that, what exactly is this required? At the background, you have to be very precise to the point. Many people say this also, precise to the point, and we always even have a pompous word called brevity. Brevity is a watchword that means briefness. Write very crisp. Briefness बोल सकते हो आप. You can write crisp also, to the point. Make your point and just don't beat around the bush. It is again easier said than done. For that, what you need in the background for getting brevity, you need another quality, my dear friends. Brevity cannot be earned overnight. When you can get into the level of brevity, when you have, that means when you can write crisply, precisely, to the point, when you have clarity. And what kind of clarity? What do you mean by clarity? The kind of a quality or level of clarity. Level of clarity में आप कब पहुंचोगे? When you don't have confusion. When there is no confusion, there is clarity. When there is no clarity, then there is confusion. either in the concepts or in the basics. Many students even don't have clarity in the basics. Let me tell you what, very clear. मैं भांडा फोड़ रहा हूँ, अब बुरा भी मान लो. I don't mind, right? This is how the reality check is done, my dear friends. Some things look very very harsh, but they are real and true. In to achieve this clarity, you need a lot of questioning. Okay, so to achieve this, you need to, as I said, get terms in terms with into terms with the basics of it. You should be very very clear in your basics, as well as the concepts, and both these to be, applied part, both basics and the concepts to be applied very very clearly into the applied aspects. That means the case studies, the examples, how to pick a case study, how to pick an example from the newspaper, from other sources. When you know the base, when you know the syllabus in the background, when you know the previous year questions कैसे पूछे गए. When your teacher is saying that ये question ऐसा आ सकता है, you have to remember that and pick up that contents and add it here and apply it here. When you do that regularly, writing clarity will come. Clarity will lead to briefness, and brevity will lead you to complete the entire paper on time. Almost all the questions you can answer in time, and that is how you end up in higher level, real marks up to मिलेंगे तब जाके. And be ready for the surprises. As we have noted, surprise questions भी आ सकते हैं. The something like, two parts of the question. Examiner divides up the two parts of the entire question into two parts. One part you can write, one part you can't write. The second part you can't write. The second part you have to leave blank. That may happen. One part you understand, one part you understand. Even you know the second part, you also understand the second part, right? But you don't know how to link this. You don't know how to link these two, and that happens, right? This is how the surprises happen in the exam. And be ready for these kinds of surprises. And one part in the short notes also they are making this. One part, the other part you are completely clueless. That, and sometimes the kind of new things I told you, phenomenology kind of things are coming up. And what else? And a lot of things have been said by me in this class. I guess it will be very, very useful to you. And anything, any kind of things you want to know from me, please add them in the comment section. Please don't hesitate to give your feedback. And I'm ready for your this thing. And we are also conducting test series through IS Baba, and we contact them also for this in this regard. And all the details are available uh, in the details, right, in the reference section. And all the best for you guys. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Take care and bye bye.